My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission, as always, is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about the top 9 facts about Alaska. There are a ton of trivia facts about Alaska, and I did my best in this top 9 for me to make sure that we kind of get past a lot of the generic ones that you see out there. So we'll be talking about the top 9 facts that you may or may not be aware of. Before we get started, as always, make sure you give this video 2 big thumbs up. There we go, 2 big thumbs up. And without further ado, let's go and jump into today's video. First fact I would say is Alaska is the only state, with the exception of the island of Hawaii, in the entire Union of the United States that is not bordered by other states of the Union. As a matter of fact, our neighbors are other countries. We've got Canada on one side, and we've got China and Russia and everything else, obviously across the Bering Sea, over on the other side. So we are the only state in the Union not bordered by other states. And logistically, that's obviously a pretty big deal. It does mean that a lot of the stuff we get up here, it is more expensive usually than what you would find in other places because, well, look at how far any goods, like food or just anything in general, has to go before it even gets to us. So that's why some of our goods are going to be more expensive up here. Fact number 2 is that Alaska has the United States' most northern town and its most western town. So the most northern town is going to be Barrow, and I know they recently went through a name change. I am so sorry. I would completely butcher it if I tried to pronounce it. Someone wants to teach me sometime. All ears. But the most northern town, Barrow, and the most western town, which the most western town used to be Attu over on the Aleutian Chains. And there was a big battle fought in World War II. It's not something that gets a whole lot of press these days because, the war in Alaska is not the most hopping topic when you talk about World War II, but it was a significant encounter, and it was something that eventually made the United States government just say, hey, this battle's done now, and we're not going to allow anyone else to move back here for a number of reasons, one of which being that if you live out here this far on the Aleutian chain, we realistically cannot protect you if something were to happen again. So it's not Attu, but it is one of those towns right along that Aleutian chain. It is a ways out there. You have to break out a map and actually get a real sense as to how far out the Aleutian chain is and actually how much closer it is to Russia than it is to the rest of the mainland Alaska, let alone the mainland of the United States. Third big fact that I think a whole lot of people aren't aware of is Alaska is actually the state in the Union with the most per capita of pilots. What I mean by that is 1 out of every 78 people in Alaska has a pilot's license. And this is not a big surprise. Once you kind of break out the map and look at the geography of Alaska, you realize just how practical it is in Alaska for you to have a pilot's license, because that allows you to get to a lot of places a whole lot faster, and also opens up a lot of the state that you just don't have access to without some kind of a plane. And obviously we can break this down further if you wanted to and look at the specific ratings that people have, like do you have ratings to land on lakes? What about landing on the snow? Are you just a gravel runway kind of a pilot? So there's a lot of things that you can break down here and more ratings you can do that's going to open up more of the state for you. But yes, by far Alaska is the largest per capita state in the country for pilots. Fact number 4 is anytime you look up any kind of top 10 list or any kind of list talking about the most scenic highways in the United States, you will find Alaska is almost always going to be in the mix. There's a lot of really beautiful scenic routes. Some of my personal favorite is the route going from Anchorage down to Seward. That's probably some of the most scenic drive you can do in all the United States. You get a lot of other great scenery as well, driving from Valdez over to the Matsu Valley or Anchorage. That's another really scenic route. So there's a lot of really, really beautiful scenery here in Alaska. And you really get a full appreciation for that once you get here and get a chance to kind of start driving around and really just let it soak in that this is where you live now. So that's awesome. Fact number 5 about Alaska is that, I know a lot of people know there are villages up here. We have a bunch of small communities, not really connected by the road system to kind of the main places where most people live in Alaska. Would you care to guess how many villages and small communities do we have kind of living out in the bush, kind of off grid? If your guess was about 240, You would be correct. So there's about 240 of these small villages, these small communities, pretty isolated out in these places. And what they'll usually do is kind of come to South Central Alaska or somewhere else that's close where they can get to some kind of a grocery store, really stockpile on all of their needs and necessities, and try to purchase as much of their supplies as they can at one go so they can really minimize the amount of times that they have to go into town. And it is a completely different lifestyle if you get into like one of these small villages or communities. So that's something you're considering. Talk to some people, make sure it's going to be your cup of tea. Let's go ahead and take a quick break here real quick. For those of you who aren't aware, we do have a monthly meetup group for people who have moved to Alaska and maybe they're just looking for an opportunity to get out and meet some people and, just have a chance to kind of socialize. If that's kind of an event, a scene you'd like to get involved in, by all means, do make sure you go plug into our monthly meetup group in our Facebook. So do make sure you go to the Facebook monthly meetup group. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below. And we'd absolutely love to see you. We usually do something pretty simple, like we'll go sledding, go hiking. We did a photo shoot a couple months ago. There's a lot of stuff that we'll go ahead and do, and it's just a good opportunity to meet people in Alaska and kind of swap stories. So do make sure you go jump into that Facebook group so you can stay updated on what's going on. Now, let's go and finish out today's video. The sixth fact about Alaska, some people... actually, I'm going to say this. A lot of these top 10 lists that you're going to find, top 9 lists, top whatever lists, are going to mention just the size of Alaska. But, it wouldn't be a complete list without me saying this. So yes, the size of Alaska is absolutely astronomical. Actually, if you were to combine Texas, Montana, and California, Alaska would still be bigger than all those places. The map distortion, everything that they do to make Alaska fit on the map is really kind of a disservice to a lot of people and to the state. It is absolutely enormous. Once you get here, you'll get a full appreciation for how big Alaska is. Fact number 7 is that our capital, Juneau, is only accessible by plane or by the ferry system. That is correct. You cannot drive to our capital. There's kind of a long history as to why our capital is so remote in this little community over in southeast Alaska. But, that is just kind of the reality up here, that our capital is a little difficult to get to. And if you're trying to get there, it is going to be by plane or by boat alone. There's no driving to it. Fact number 8 about living in Alaska is that, yes, there is about 734,000 people, 33,000 people who live up here in Alaska. And most of them, though, are going to be very densely populated over in the South Central Alaska area. And when we say South Central Alaska, that is primarily Anchorage and the Matsu Valley. And that's where, obviously not everyone, you're going to have like these towns and communities outside of there, but that is where the vast majority of the population in Alaska is going to be clustered, over in the South Central Alaska area. And even lower 48 standards or Anchorage and the Matsu Valley, none of those are going to be big towns. You definitely still kind of get the small town feel, even when you're in kind of the metropolis of what's considered a big town in Alaska. All right, fact number 9 about Alaska, and our last but not least one, is that there is a permanent fund dividend. For those of you who are not aware, the permanent fund dividend, better known as the PFD in Alaska, is a fund that is created by the oil revenue here in the state. And if you're a citizen of the state, you do get a certain stipend, a payment, whatever you want to call it, from the oil revenue for the past year here in Alaska. And that's great. It's a nice little bonus. It is not enough to live off of, because you see all these articles flying around out there saying that, Alaska will pay you to live there, permanent fund dividend, the PFD, that's where it's at. Not enough to live off. So if that was the plan you had going into it, sorry to burst your bubble, that just kind of is the reality. So this has been my top 9 list for facts about Alaska. If you have any questions about anything else about Alaska, if you're considering moving here, do feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions I can to the best of my ability. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.